Let me see. Yeah, it is recording now. So let's make a full introduction for our listener. Good afternoon, Amanda. My name is Claudio. I'm calling you from Washington, D.C., from the studios in Fairfax City. We are very humble and grateful that Amanda Lehmann accepted our invitation to a show. Amanda, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Claudio. It's lovely to talk to you, be
Thank
on
you.
your show.
So let's go back to what's going on in the world with the pandemic and people dying and not able to get access to a vaccine and so on and so forth. How is this affecting your life, personally, your life? You, not just as a mom, not just a musician, but you're as a musician now, your creativity, the ability to record, you cannot tour, obviously. How is this affecting you?
Well, yes, it's kind of multi-layered, really. I mean, I would say, really, compared to a lot of people, I'm doing all right. I've got lots of things going on, and I've been busy. Obviously, there've been no gigs, and I've missed the gigs, and I think that's been really hard for a lot of people across the whole of the arts. And for me, I'm quite fortunate, really, that I've got other strings to my bow, in the sense that I have other work I can do to keep the money coming in, which is good. It's pretty useful. And also I've been able to use this time to really forge ahead on my own solo work, on my album, which is due out this year, which has been really, really useful, because I think a lot of the time when I've got gigs coming up, I tend to focus on those and prioritize those, and the music gets a bit left behind sometimes, my own solo stuff. So it's, in a funny sort of way, if I'm going to look at it purely from a personal point of view and in a positive way, it has given me more time to do that, to concentrate on my solo material. So there's a positive for me in what is a really dire situation globally. It's quite a thing.
Yeah. And also at the same time, I don't know if you believe in God or your religion, but there are so many people that have died. So one, we are very happy to be alive, and two, at least for me, this issue has put a different perspective on life. What is real important? Before, we were busy. You were touring. Rehearsing, and
Yeah.
we couldn't, like they say here in the United States, we couldn't smell the roses, right? Now for me, working from home, it slowed down my life a lot, and I look from the outside, try to put a perspective of what is important in life, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it has. I think for so many people it's done that, hasn't it? It's quite
it's good.
thing, really, in all sorts of different ways, and it's really fascinating to find out how it affects different people, what different people say is important to them, and as you say, it seems to slow things down, and yeah, a different perspective, because I think otherwise we're just going, and you don't have any chance to step back and think what really is important here. A lot of people talk about simple things like going out for a coffee with a friend or something like that, things that you took for granted before, and now you just miss those simple things.
Absolutely. And with all the, we were busy with all the social media and Instagram and Facebook and the phone, people calling. Just turn off the phone, man. Don't post anything. Enjoy your life. You don't know how many days you're going to be alive in this case.
Yeah.
Crazy world of politics. So it's good to be alive. So let's go back to the beginning. Were you born like in a musical family, and when do you start playing piano before you began switch to guitars?
Yeah. Well, my dad was very musical. Excuse me. He was a violinist, amongst other things, and he was a really good musician, and had a really good, thorough appreciation of music. So I mean, I was surrounded by music from a very, from when I was born. there was always sort of music in the house. It was very much classical music that was around us. And I always enjoyed music. I always sang from, I can't remember ever not singing.
Yeah.
I always loved singing, and I know when I was at school I learned the recorder, and I used to want to be involved in anything to do with music at school. The piano I started playing when I was 8, and really the piano is great because it's laid out so logically. It really did sort of fit very well for me. I kind of, I learned it in a classical way. I learned, I knew how to read music anyway, but I always played the piano from written music. And it's quite interesting actually, because later on, when I was being more creative for my own stuff, I actually found it quite hard to break away from that with a piano. With a guitar, I was self-taught. I just picked it up and just kept playing it. But with the piano and any kind of keyboard instrument, it did take me a while to actually kind of let go of the reins and actually create my own stuff, other than just reading written material. So that was quite a challenge. And I'd started to play the blues on the piano, and that was kind of the start of it, really, to start to play the blues, to break out in order to actually do my own creation on it. So that was quite.
And then at what age I suppose you have a conversation with your parents, and you have kind of a couple of options, right? Try to become a musician, right, in some way, or forget the music and then go to school, and then how that decision became about one way or another, if you could do both, or your parents saw you, well, she played piano very well, and she's learning the guitar, and she liked music, she's in her room, listen to the radio, whatever, and then you need to kind of 17, 18, you need to make a decision, right? Either college or music, or how the decision came about.
Well, I was very willful. I knew what I wanted to do. There were some arguments, but I think that, well, my dad passed away when I was 14, which was, pretty horrific, and had a major impact on all of us as a family. So I think that in a way added to what happened afterwards, in the sense that I think because my mother was trying to deal with her own grief and keeping sort of working in order to keep the family going, I, in a funny sort of way, had more freedom, and I think my father would have been more strict than my mum was. So she did appreciate how important the music was to me, and I think that there wasn't too much pressure on me to go to like university as such. I was toying with going to art college for a while, and then I decided, well, I don't, how teenagers are, I don't want to go to art college, I don't want to do art, I want to do music, so what's the point of spending time doing something I don't want to do? And I dug my heels in, and I just said, no, I'm not going. So I did finish school, and I went and did my A-levels at college, just got them done in a year, and then I was off. That was it. It was, I was already playing music in bands at that point anyway, in my spare time, and then I left college and got straight on with it, basically. That was my life.
And then at the time, when you were 18 or whatever, when you began playing with bands, what kind of music would you listen to at the time, if you remember?
Oh, all sorts.
What bands were important to you? The Pink Floyd, the Wall, the Genesis, the Rolling Stone, what? Quite sure that all of them.
Bands. Yes, what bands were important to me? Well, yeah, Genesis, obviously, was something I listened to Genesis a lot, and actually Genesis was one of the very first progressive rock bands I'd ever heard. I heard Wind and Wuthering was the first one I was aware of when I was younger. So that was sort of with me already. Pink Floyd was another one I really used to listen to. Also bands, lesser known bands like Uriah Heep. I used to really enjoy Marillion, which kind of was around when I was a teenager, so that I played a lot of Marillion. Oh, so many bands. A lot of rock music as well. I was very into rock. Oh, all sorts of, I kind of dabbled in some sort of more folky stuff as well. I did like, trying to think of an example really, can't think off the top of my head, but also bands like All About Eve, that was a little bit later, that I really enjoyed. And then, yeah, rocky stuff like Pat Benatar,
Blondie,
that sort of music, you know, real gutsy stuff. And of course, Kate Bush. She was a big influence for me as well. And Fleetwood Mac, another one. I used to listen to them a lot.
Yeah. Of course,
I go on and on and on and that.
Yeah. I imagine that you know who David Sylvian is, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
His music is for me, right? So
yes.
I like all the bands that you mentioned. I like them, and I like different music a different day, and I have a lot of music. So I'm always buying, and it's a great satisfaction to be music part of your life, if you will. You know, it's a beautiful thing. Yeah. Do you remember the first vinyl record that you bought on your own, or were a lot of vinyls at home? Maybe classical music, but I suppose with your dad being a violinist.
Well, the first actual album I bought was an ELO album.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Yeah. Which I've still got, and I still like them as a band. I think they did some brilliant stuff like Mr. Blue Sky and what's the one? The Western. I can't think of the Western Girl, or I can't remember what it's called now. But there's some really lovely tracks I thought ELO did. And that was the first album I ever bought.
You're talking about Western Girl from the Pet Shop Boys, or?
No, not the Pet Shop Boys. No, the ELO. I can't.
The ELO. I got you. Yeah,
called now. A really nice track, but Mr. Blue Sky I think is my all-time ELO favorite track.
I get you.
So yeah, that was my first album. And then I can't remember what I used to buy after that, but I know that there was this brilliant little second-hand shop in Brighton where I used to live that I used to go to get albums nice and cheap. And I used to love
from Brighton. I hear that there are so many good bands coming out of Brighton, right? I think it was Duran. I think Everything But the Girl, if I remember correctly. Maybe I may be mistaken, but it's a lot of, somehow there were a lot of, I don't recall now, but this is a particular town or city in the UK that many good bands came out of the same age.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable, very unheard of to have the opportunity like that. And then, so you began, playing with some of your friends from high school, from college, and then you guys were doing gigs, every week, every weekend, and then making enough money to pay the bills. You're still living at home before you took the stuff seriously, right? Yeah.
Yes. No, I used to have a wall calendar that was absolutely chock-a-block full of gigs. I did loads and loads, but I mean, it was a combination of gigs with my own band. That we used to perform mixtures of original material and cover numbers depending on the venue you were going to. Yeah. And then I used to do solo gigs and duo gigs, which were better for the money, obviously, for making ends meet. In the early days, I used to go busking. So there we go.
Really?
Yeah. I was out there in the lanes in Brighton with my acoustic guitar and my guitar case. Singing away. Yeah.
Where were you living? Were you London or no? I have no idea where you live.
I was in Brighton, yeah, on the south coast. Yeah.
Wow. And then the big, I think maybe I'm incorrect, but kind of one of the first big break for you was in the 2009, right? Began playing with the Steve Hackett bands, and it was difficult to get that particular gig. You needed to auditions, or well, I know, of course, I know that you know them, but they knew your music, and then how that at the beginning of 2009 or so came together for you to begin playing with them.
Well, as it happens, Steve and Joe came to a gig I did. It was one of my solo gigs, and it was a particularly challenging audience that night. But I kind of turned it around, and I did my thing, and Steve was really impressed afterwards. He said, "Well, you know," he said that was, you know, really good. He said, I wouldn't have wanted to stand there and do that. And I think that you know, rather than knowing that I played, I think actually seeing that sort of gave him a different view. And it was after that that he said, would I like to do some backing vocals on Out of the Tunnel's Mouth? So I said, yes, please. So I did those, and it was sort of out of that the idea came that the UK tour was coming up, and the idea of me doing some of the vocals that I did on the album actually on the tour, and that kind of grew, and I learned other stuff as well, like Every Day and some of the other music they were doing on those shows. My mum agreed to look after my son, who was very small at the time, while I was away, and it all kind of came together really. It was great, and Steve and I just went through some of the songs in advance, obviously, that I wasn't sort of familiar with, and went through the guitar parts together, and then I just sort of practiced them on my own. And yeah, just the first gig actually wasn't in the UK, it was in Paris, and yeah, I just joined in, and it was just brilliant. I loved it. It's so good to be back on stage again, because I haven't done any live work apart from these sort of solo shows, which were a different thing. I hadn't actually done any band work for quite some time, and it was great. And the band, it just so impressed me, the rehearsal before we did the Paris show, and then, you know, onwards, how well everybody got on together, and how there was no kind of competitiveness amongst everybody. It was just a joy to play with everyone, and it was an altogether really good experience, and good to be back on it again.
And imagine that is, you know, I'm a listener of Steve Hackett, right? I like his music, but I don't know how to play an instrument. I don't know how to read music. How difficult it is to learn, you know, all the pieces, which the genus, he played his own stuff, and the genus is very complex. It's not that easy that, you know, you can rehearse a week, but I don't know, maybe it's good enough. Maybe, you know, I don't know how long does it take to really learn this stuff, you know, kind of well to go on tour, you know, play live. Sure.
I think it's a gradual process. I mean, when I started joining in with them, I just did a handful of tracks. I didn't do like the whole set.
Yeah.
So I could focus on those tracks. But I suppose, I don't know, I do remember it being complicated, but I don't remember struggling with it, if that makes sense. I guess because it wasn't hugely different to some of the music I played. I think what I did realise with it was that you had to be very precise, and you couldn't smudge over. You know, sometimes I'd be doing power chords, and it was in the way of other stuff. I thought, oh dear. So it was quite interesting. It was a learning curve as well as I went on, and became more and more tuned to what everyone was doing, and realizing how orchestrated that stuff was. Everybody would play their parts, and then they would stop or back right off, and you didn't have to be playing your guitar through the whole thing. You could just stop and just stand back and then come back in again. So I think that the precision of it, and the orchestration of it, was something I learned as I went along, and the more I did, the more kind of I got involved in the detail of the songs rather than the overall. And I think by the time the later years when I was full-time touring with them and doing pretty much the whole set, I would say I was a much better musician than when I started with them.
Sure.
Which was, yeah, very
And
valuable.
you were with the Steve Hackett band from 2010 to 2013, right? If I remember correctly, right?
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
And then I suppose with your son was very young. It's hard to be in the road, I suppose. Kind of, I don't know, 50 gigs a year, and being a parent at the same time. And I
Yes.
imagine that it's not that easy, right, to manage both family and your life, right? So
Absolutely, it was really hard, and I think that it got hard. Well, it did get harder later on, because my mother got ill. She had dementia, and obviously that became more and more difficult, although my stepfather did step in a lot to look after my son. As mum got more poorly, she started to act out and get quite aggressive, and it just became untenable. I couldn't carry on. I do remember getting phone calls when I was on tour, mum saying, right, I'm leaving, I'm taking Vic with me and we're going, and oh God, it was really stressful. And I just thought, I can't do this anymore. I'm a mum primarily, and I just can't. So yeah, I did have to stop. And it was it was actually when Steve and the band was starting the Genesis Revisited. So it seemed like quite a good time actually to make that change at that point. Nad was with them, and doing that wonderful performance that he gives. So it was a new incarnation of the band, and there would have been less for me to do anyhow, even though Steve was dead keen on me staying, which was really nice actually to know. But yes, that was the time to step out, and then it's great because I can still dip in and do the guest spots. So it's not like it was totally over.
and you have been, I think, in some years in some shows, been like a guest member.
Yeah.
That you play some gigs and make a little bit of money that way too.
It's lovely to be able to still attend a few shows and meet up with everybody again, and see that, just still be part of it, even though it was a part-time thing with them. And obviously I do still get involved with the albums, the recording. I've done some on the album that Steve's working on at the moment, and although obviously we can't record together, I can do that here in my home studio and send it down to Roger King, and then he sorts it all out the other end. So it's great, we just do it remotely now. And so I'm still involved in that, so I'm still very sort of connected to it all, and able to obviously be mum at home as well, and
have to try to have a good balance, make enough money to pay your bills and be a mom.
Absolutely, it's spinning plates. It really is. It's a juggling act. But hey,
I have, like I told you before, I have a son your age, so I know how it's like. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Yes, it is. It's getting easier as they get older.
It's different kind of problem. It's different kind of issues.
Yeah.
And how the situation? By the way, how's the situation in the UK right now? Is still are some zones opening up? Is everybody getting a vaccine or not? When they will open up for for musicians and for people to go outside? Is 6 months from now, a year from now? Do you know?
It's a $1 million question, isn't it? I mean, I think that, there's a lot of discussion generally about the whole situation at the moment. Obviously, we're in full lockdown at the moment still.
Yeah, full lockdown.
The vaccine is getting rolled out at a reasonably good rate. So when I'll get mine for talking's sake, I don't know yet. But it'll happen at some point. When we get back to gigging, I'm hopeful that we'll be sort of by summertime. I mean, obviously there's a UK tour in September and October for Steve and the band. So as far as I know, that's going ahead. But with this thing, this whole COVID situation, it depends on how it progresses, I assume. It depends on how well the vaccines turn out to go. It depends on new variants and mutations, so goodness knows what.
Yeah.
So yeah, all being well, there'll be a tour in the
September, October.
Yeah. So I know there's America coming up for Steve. I don't know if that's happening or not. That's soon. So I don't know, what's happening abroad, but I know this country is still locked down. So there's nothing going on here gig-wise at all at the moment.
Yeah. Here in the United States, the same. I have talked to a lot of musicians, and early during the year, late last year, they thought, well, by the summer, but that being May, June, July, August, right? And then now the people I interviewed, they say no, they have moved to September.
Yeah. Yes.
So very likely will not happen until next year. So unfortunately, bands are moving the show, for 6 months from now, whatever. Even I was planning late last year. I was planning on traveling this coming April to London to see Genesis,
oh yes,
and then they push it to the fall, right?
Yeah.
And I was planning to go in May to see Eric Clapton, which is a hero of mine, played at the Royal Albert Hall. He's doing 4 nights in a row, and I look at the Royal Albert Hall, and it's still a show that is playing, but very likely it's going to be canceled and moved or postponed, whatever the word they use, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's going to happen. So I want to bring your attention to 3 songs. I was listening to your stuff on YouTube and then Spotify. And what can you tell me about Memory Lane and how that the particular song came together? That's a beautiful piece, actually.
Thank you.
Very good stuff. Very good stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, Memory Lane. Yes, I'm proud of that one. It was a labour of love. That was. That was written over a long period of time. It was inspired by my mum's illness, her dementia, and I kind of the first time I started to write it was after I'd seen her one day when I was driving home, and I felt really tearful and upset after it all, and I pulled over in the car and just started writing down some words, some thoughts, some lyrics, like almost more like a poem, and it grew from there. I found it quite therapeutic to actually start to create a song around it, and so that just grew and grew, and I didn't force it. And Mum passed away in 2016, and after that I started to sort of put that song together. I felt it was an important thing to do, not just for me but for so many people who have experienced this disease, and I've found that now I've written it, recorded it and done the video, and I've performed it live as well. I found that it really does seem to resonate with people and make a difference. it's a connection. It's like cathartic. I think although it's a sad song, it's a bit like watching a sad movie. You might cry watching the movie, but afterwards you kind of feel better. And I think, and I hope that generally that's what this song does for people. It connects for them, and that's important to me, to try and reach out to other people.
Yeah. Did you feel that you didn't have another choice to write a song? I mean, some song, kind of personal question, right? So a lot of musicians, they write songs about what's going on in their life, a boyfriend or girlfriend, or marriage or whatever. And some people put in writing, and other people say, no, that's personal stuff. I'm not going to do a song. And let me see yourself, put in writing, and it resonates with many people. Like it didn't happen to me, right? I'm a consumer of your music, right? And it's a beautiful and powerful song. So sometimes people don't, like a musician or an artist, right, doesn't have a choice. They need to put it out, right?
Yes, I think that's very true. Yeah, yes. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sometimes you just, it's like a song almost has to be. Sometimes it's like it just has to be born. And there's other songs that you might think you want to write. Sometimes I really get into an idea, and then I kind of think, nah, just no, that's not going to work. I've lost interest in that. But I think there are some songs, and they are quite often the very personal ones, that they just have to see the light of day. And yes, it's a marvelous form of expression, music. It was for me. Like as a teenager, I was very shy. I didn't dress shyly. I was kind of a bit of an oddbot, I suppose. So I used to sort of dress very sort of unusually, but I didn't find it easy to communicate with people, unless I was very relaxed and it was just with friends or family. And music gave me a voice. It was something that cut through that, and I was able to be confident when I was playing and singing, and it was a way of communicating for me to the outside world. Say, hey, this is who I am. I'm not just this sort of person who doesn't say anything. Actually, I've got a lot to say, but this is how I say it.
That's very well put.
Yeah.
Yeah, should write that on the website.
Yeah, I should really, yeah.
What about Shadow? That's another beautiful piece.
Shadow. Yes. Shadow, I wrote that quite quickly, actually. That was one of the songs that just sort of came to me quite quickly. I was doing a counselling course at the time when I originally wrote that. Like I say, I like to have lots of strings to my bow. I'm interested in so many different things, and that was a fascinating course. And again, helping people, and I got very interested in Carl Jung and his theories and philosophy, and it was all about the shadow and everybody's shadow, and that essentially is what that song is about. And it was about my own shadow, but again, I do like to write a song that can relate, that lots of people can relate to, so I try not to make them too personal in the way they're written, so that lots of people can kind of make their own story around it. So yeah, that's where Shadow came from originally. Yeah.
I'm surprised that you mentioned Carl Gustav Jung, because I know his work very good. I mean, he's a hero of mine.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, this year, we were, of course, a year ago, we didn't know about the COVID and but I wanted to go to Switzerland and visit his house in Kochsnach, and visit his grave, and visit Hermann Hesse grave also, and Nietzsche. They're very in that part of Switzerland, and I wanted to visit his house near the lake, because he has a lot of encryptions in Latin that I wanted to take some picture. Yeah, I know. Although I'm an engineer, right? Nothing to do with music.
Okay.
I study a lot of psychology, and
Oh yeah.
Carl Gustav Jung was a hero of mine. So I have studied, the archetype, anima, and animus, and all the stuff he did in collective unconscious, and
Yeah.
he was way and look at the importance of religion. Also, he was very ahead of his time by far.
He was. Yeah.
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 Some people, like, talking about a little bit of psychology. So Carl, like Abraham Maslow, right, put a theory of serving people. Well, in order for you to be successful, you need to have a place to stay, a shelter, right? You need to have a roof in your head. You need to have supporting parents, in order to be successful, right? Piaget, for example, so little kids, well, they learn language by 2, by 3. They need to have a good emotional attachment with the parents, and they become introverts and so forth. But in the Carl Gustav Jung, he didn't have an example. He didn't have a framework. So he began studying religion and why God is important to people. And he put up a very good framework. So he, he was way ahead of his time. Unbelievable. So I'm a big, so I'm happy that you like that stuff too.
Yeah. No, I found absolutely fascinating, really, really interesting. And yeah, as you say, he's way ahead of his time. Just a fascinating man, really. Just so many aspects of his work drew me in. Like, even the dream work that he did with the archetypes, and it was
the archetype,
it was just such a completely new and intelligent, searching kind of attitude to the world around us and how we function. And
another song. It's what can you tell me about where the small things go? That's a beautiful piece. I picked those 3 because it resonated with me, right? So
yeah, absolutely. Where the small things go. Well, that was done during lockdown. I'd been talking to Steve and Joe, and we've been talking about sort of everything kind of stopping, what we're going to do about music. And I think that Steve was getting very frustrated anyway with not being able to do what he wanted to do. And he was putting out some music at the time, these little mini tracks that he was doing, and putting them up on the internet, for which was a really good idea for people to have sort of little bits and pieces to listen to, just little sort of short clips. And so I said to him, well, why don't you send something over to me and I'll do work on it at this end. I'm not an engineer, but I do know enough to just put some simple stuff together. So seemed like a good idea. So he did this wonderful little piece of guitar work, which sounds a little bit, I think it's got bits of House of the Fawn in it, but it's not exactly House of the Fawn. And he sent that over, or Joe sent it over to me, and I put it on my system and played around with some vocal ideas. And that, again, that was quite a quick track to come together. The music just suggested that kind of magical quality that the song has, just something very ethereal, something with a childlike quality to it, magical, sort of little sort of cozy corner sort of magic to it. So I laid down some vocal tracks and mixed it all and put it up on YouTube.
YouTube, right? It was a beautiful piece. I really like it. What about I was listening in Spotify last night, the Harmony for Elephant. I think it's an album for 2018 that you wrote and recorded a track for kind of charity work, Harmony for Elephant. Feel free to elaborate and why that is important to you, and then why that came together, how they came together.
Well, that was Leslie Wood, as she was at the time. She was putting together this album, and I knew that she had approached Steve for it, and Rob Townsend she'd approached at that point. I'm not sure, I can't remember who else. And it was before a gig I was chatting to her, and we thought it'd be a good idea for me to do something for that album as well. So I said, yeah, I'd love, definitely would be something I'd like to do. I mean, we all love elephants, don't we? They're just wonderful, wonderful creatures. So that was, it was a double thing for me. Any excuse to do a song that somebody wants to use, plus an elephant charity. So it was going to be, it was put together with all Leslie's fantastic photographs for the whole package, and that was a really enjoyable one to do, and it was a challenge because it was for a particular project, so it wasn't something I could just sort of let my mind wander and do what I wanted. I had to think, right, what am I going to do here? And I did it very much like from the elephant's point of view, so it was the elephant and the herd, from kind of almost like we are the herd, that's what we are one. So it was, I tried to just give that feeling of the elephants, and a bit of the kind of the threat, but the communal feel, and the music again had that sort of pathos in it, very kind of, it goes into very delicate patches, because although elephants are huge, cumbersome creatures, they're also incredibly delicate, sensitive, and I wanted to sort of get that across as well. So yeah, I was pleased with that track. I did it, that start to finish, it was all my own work, and I was really quite pleased with how that turned out.
It's a beautiful album. And not only I listened to your particular piece, but the whole thing last night.
Oh, yeah, there's some fantastic music on that. I think that the track that Nick Magnus did, I think, is just exceptional. On there, it's beautiful. But I mean, everybody's work on there, I think, is just, it's amazing that album works so well, because they're so different. I mean, like Rob Townsend's take on it, it's just, you can see almost these baby elephants sort of falling over and clumping about. It's just inspired. Everybody's got their own take on one subject, and it's so varied. Some real tear-jerking stuff to something that makes you laugh. So yeah, I love that album. It's so much good stuff.
And also I listened to another piece that you have. I think it once on in an album, I think called New Pragmatics.
Yes.
With, Sarastro Blake. I didn't know who he was. I'm sorry, my ignorance. I didn't. Sarastro Blake, that. So I look at, the Spotify, your stuff, you do, and all the stuff, and that song is different, but it's very, very nice too.
Yes, it's a lovely track, that one. Again, yeah, that was really nice to do the harmonies on that as well. I do love fiddling around with harmonies. So if anybody says, oh, would you like to do some vocal? I'm like, oh yeah. And then it comes back with a whole load of harmonies I've done on it. And I think, yeah, he was really pleased with that, which was good, because I'm never quite sure if anyone wants that much vocal on things. But yeah, I think that that's a lovely track. And the whole album, again, is really worth listening to. So that was one of my very sort of early prog collaborations of doing it over, like, over a distance. So doing it and then sending it over the internet, that was sort of quite, that was a few years back now, that one. But I was pleased with that.
I think about 4 years ago, you were part of a cover band, I think, for Heart. Is that correct?
Yeah.
The tribute band, you were at Nancy, I think you were.
That's right. I was Nancy. Oh, that was great fun. That band. We had such a laugh. That was really good because it was like an opportunity for me to get back to the old rock roots as well, and fling my hair around and just pose on stage and just be sort of just really ham it up. And again, there was such a fun group of people. And Lisa as Anne Wilson. Lisa's voice is just phenomenal. It really is. She can belt it out. She's brilliant. So yeah, that was really good fun. I mean, it didn't last very long because we were all busy and it was just difficult to keep it going. But while it lasted, it was a good laugh and it was a good band. We did churn out some really good music.
It's funny that you mentioned at the beginning of the interview that you were shy and introvert, and well, it seems to me that now, 40 years later, or whatever it is, you're, I don't think you're shy and introvert. You learn how to put yourself out there, I suppose,
Well, absolutely, yeah. I'm still,
stage, it's not.
Yeah, I'm still shy. If somebody just said to me, I don't know, just get up and play something without having sort of thought about it, I would probably just think, I think that we have, to be a bit Jungian, we have our personas and we have our ways of operating in the world, and we learn, some people find it very easy to be out there, hey, and some people don't, and all shades in between. And I think that, yeah, I'm a lot less shy than I used to be, but I still can be quite, in an environment where I'm not familiar with or not entirely comfortable, I can be quite quiet. But it doesn't mean I'm quiet inside. And I think this is where people who are shy or not, hugely, don't find socializing that easy, I think that they often are thought of as perhaps not having, a lot to say, but actually inside they might be very noisy. And I think music's a great way to get that noise out.
Yeah, beautiful, excellent way you put it. Inside they're noisy, right? Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
People, I suppose that people from a psychology point of view, people need to find their own way to express themselves, right? So music happens to be yours.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful things. We can put personas for so long, but eventually you travel by yourself, because you may get married to somebody or date somebody, whatever, and you could become somebody else's. You could live somebody else's life. So eventually you need to become Amanda, who you really are, right? So easy for me to say that.
Yes, to be actually who we are, not pretending to be somebody else.
Otherwise, you live somebody else's life. Easier to say than done, I suppose. You did some work for TV also, and I think some soundtrack, right? Is that correct? Some TV stuff or film or not? No.
Oh, yeah, yes.
You did a little bit of that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was a long time ago, and it was for a short video. Well, no, it's two separate things. One was like a mini film.
Yeah.
And the other was for a short video. And both of these were things that my sister Jo had done, because she was very when she was much younger, she was really into drama, and then she started to write scripts, and then she got into film work, and these were like these mini films that she did. And I did some of the music for that, and some of it, one of them I did all the music myself, and another one was a collaboration with a keyboard player who I used to do a lot of music with. We did the soundtracks for these mini films, and that was fascinating to do, because again, a bit like what I was saying earlier, by not playing all over something. You've got scenes that you have to back off on. You have to work out when you can bring that music forward and when you have to bring it sort of more subtle. And so that was, yeah, that was fascinating actually. And I wasn't really using any sort of technology at the time. It was all kind of done on the fly. So yeah, that was a long time ago now. Gosh, that was back in the 90s maybe.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but it's great you have done it. For me, I love soundtrack as well. That's what I want to bring into attention. So
Okay.
I have a big collection. So the other radio, I have another radio which is going to be, well, it is right now. It's electronic music. They will have some stuff, ambient music like a Brian Eno stuff,
Yeah,
and then I will do in a couple of weeks. I will start with a weekly or twice a week about soundtracks, music from
okay.
movies, and try to analyze that for kind of a technical point of view, and try to interview the director, the film,
Yeah,
the film editor, that kind of stuff, because that's important to me. For example, The Shining is a very good movie that comes to my mind. That I want to try to analyze the score and that kind of stuff. That's another crazy idea that I have.
yeah,
Time permitted, I wanna do this stuff because it's a very complex movie, The Shining, and a lot of people got involved, and the decisions that were made at the beginning toward the end were very different. So I want to know the process. You know, they hired somebody to do the music, they didn't use it, and the director was pissed off, and then somebody else took that over, and you know, and so on. So it's very interesting, the process of soundtrack. You know, yeah. I know that you're working in a new album. I feel free to elaborate when that's going to be out and how many EPs have you done so far?
The new album, yes, that is, well, it's going to be called Innocence and Illusion, and
The
it's
name.
good. Yeah, I think it kind of sums up. I mean, it's not like everything has to fit into a title, but I think it sums up the album quite well with most of what's going to be on that. I'm over halfway through recording it, and there's still a couple of tracks I haven't even written yet, but I know what they're going to be. So hopefully they won't take as long as Memory Lane. No, they can't, because the album is being released this year. So I am going to have to finish those tracks off, which is, it's quite interesting actually. When you've got a lot of pressure on, you think, well, I can't write something that's just going to meander along. I'm going to have to really, knuckle down and finish this. So yes, I really can't wait to have this album finished, because I think I'm going to be pretty pleased with it, because I'm pleased with what has happened so far on it. I've got new material on there, like brand new, and obviously Memory Lane is going to be on there. There's material that I wrote quite a long time ago, a couple of the tracks that I've reinvented. They've never sort of been recorded, or not ever recorded properly, and I've never been able to let them go. Also, I really would like to hear that song done properly, so I've brought them back to life, which has been really satisfying. And yeah, like I say, new stuff as well. So I'm really sort of enthusiastic about this. I've had some collaborations on the album, so there'll be some contributions from Steve on it, which I guess won't surprise you.
What a surprise.
And obviously that Memory Lane has that wonderful string arrangement that Roger King did on it, and the lovely sax solo from Rob Townsend on that one. So and I'm also collaborating with Nick Magnus. He on one of the old songs that I regurgitated that I put down all the my vocal and guitar on of that, and then sent it over to Nick, who played around with it, and we discussed an orchestrally kind of instrumental, and I explained to him what I wanted to do and put down some rough ideas, and well, what he came back with was just like magic, because it was like, wow, how did you read my mind there? You know, it was just amazing what he came back with. So it's all very exciting, and I just can't wait to get it out to people, basically.
Yeah. And then hopefully, you know, you will be to tour, right? With that, you know, again, you know, presented a new material and do some gigs in the UK and other cities as well, hopefully, right? So.
It would be very nice. It's I don't know when I'd be able to do that, because at the moment I'm still needed in parental capacity. And obviously, if I put a band together, that would take a lot of time and a lot of energy, which I would love to do, but right now isn't a possibility in the practical sense. But, you know, life moves on, and who knows, you know, that is something that in theory I'd love to do.
Yeah.
To do
So when you are at home right now, everybody's at home more, and when you're not listening to your stuff, music, or you know, Steve stuff or Genesis stuff, what kind of music do you listen to? You have like a big CD collection, a big vinyl collection at home that you
Yeah.
listen to stuff, a particular band that you like more now?
Oh golly. Well,
I always put you on the spot.
yeah, no. Oh, I've got a playlist on the old Alexa, and there's just so much stuff on there that ranges from some really old music to some really modern music, and all in between. I couldn't really pick out tracks because it would sort of say, oh, this is what I'm listening to, or that's what I'm listening to. I listen to so many different things. I like to delve into all sorts of different music. I mean, even, like I say, even stuff that's really up to date. I don't like to reject music at all, just because, you know, I don't want to sound like, oh, you know, what young people listen to, it's all this, oh, there's no melody anymore. Actually, if you really listen to some of that stuff and get a bit familiar and tune into it, there's some good stuff out there.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like to reject anything. So I listen to all sorts of music, and it depends on my mood. I'm very affected by music. So what I can really want to listen to on one day that might be quite emotional music, on another day I think, oh, I don't know, I think that will be too deep for me today. I don't, you know, I think that music is for so many different moods. So what I choose to listen to really does depend on what my mood is at the time. That sounds like I'm moody, doesn't it? I don't think I'm particularly moody, but
Are you, you know, don't give me the date that you were born, but are you a Gemini by any chance? Or?
No, I'm not. I'm a Leo. I'm Leo lioness, me.
And
Only one, no, not the two Geminis.
so the last question is, where, you know, feel free to mention your website where people can, you know, buy your music, and then feel free to elaborate when you don't know when the record is going to be out, but you know, so as a closing statement there with your website and where people can buy your music or listen to your stuff.
Yeah, well, my website is amandalehmann.co.uk, and you can, obviously, anything important that is happening will go up on that. I'm also on Facebook. If you look me up on Facebook, yeah. Amanda Lehmann. Amanda Lehmann Music is my kind of music page on there. I'm on Twitter as well, Amanda Lehmann 25. You can look me up on Twitter. Yeah, I will be regularly posting updates about the album and associated musical stuff, and the occasional post about a dog or whatever. And yeah, the album will be out this year, later on this year. And yeah, come and have a look and a listen. And obviously I've got a YouTube channel as well. You can listen to some of my music on my YouTube channel. It's all there.
I will do that. Thank you very much. I love your music. I love all the work you have done as an individual with Steve Hackett band, but I always want to concentrate in your own, right? So Amanda, play her own music, dependent on being, familiar with or had play with Steve Hackett, band. But it was a beautiful interview, and good luck to you. I hope that you finish the album as soon as you can, and then hopefully we'll be able to tour and make some money and to pay the bills. But hopefully we'll come back to a normal world.
Yes, we will. It'll be back. Live music will return.
I will send you a link later on, and we'll stay in touch. Thank you very much, Amanda. Have a beautiful
Lovely
afternoon. It was very nice talking to you, Amanda. You're a very good person.
Thank you. You too. You take care.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.